My name is Cath and I've lived here for 34 and a half years.
My name is Eileen. I'm 87 years of age and I've lived here all my life. Things have changed an awful lot in my lifetime around here. All the small houses were knocked down and flats were built down in Llangfelig Street. The new houses then in Brynmelyn Street and in Lion Street. The park again has changed a lot because it was holy ground, the top of the park with all the flowers and what have you in there. It was beautiful. But then they changed the swings and that they brought up here so that you could look after the children really, which is a good thing, you know. You can look out for them.
Remember when we used to go out in the front and all the kids would be out playing in the streets
and we'd have our chairs.
We'd have our chairs out there and a little tipple.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the kids would get tired and they'd all sort of bunk into my living room and all the cushions would be on the floor and, you know, they just used to have fun, you know. It was real sort of, it was community, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, yeah.
It doesn't seem to have much of that now, do we?
No. When I moved here, there were only a few youngsters on the terrace, but everyone joined in with the older people and everything, you know. And we used to run, my friend and I used to run parties then for the children, and any royal occasion we'd have the parties and we'd have it over the park. And you know, we used to have a lovely time and everyone joined in. New Year's Eve we'd all be over the park for the new year, you know, take our drinks over and enjoy ourselves, watch the fireworks from all over the town then, you could see from the park, you know.
Oh, we used to do loads of things, you know, but we had a fireworks display over the park, a proper one with, you know, proper people. We didn't just do it ourselves. We'd have fetes over there, and on those days people would turn up, but then when we had sort of meetings to discuss things, you know, and things were going on in the area, you know, perhaps not so nice things were going on in the area and we wanted to have a meeting to see what we could do about it, you'd only have a handful of people come in and we'd be putting little leaflets through all the doors, going right up the hill, street after street after street, and then we'd have half a dozen people. When my kids were sort of 12, 13, 14, in the summer holidays or the Easter holidays, they'd all be playing over the park, and come dinner time, oh my God, I never knew how many kids I'd have in the house for dinner. I'd have a big cauldron like that. I'd either make homemade soup or pasta or something like that. I could be feeding up to about 10 kids, you know, and my own 3. The parish hall down in St Joseph's had a wonderful dance floor, and it was a sprung dance floor, and they used to have many dances down there.
Oh yeah.
You
Twice
know?
a week, Thursday and Saturday dancing.
It was before my time, but can you remember that, Eileen?
Yes, I used to go to them because my mother used to be in the buffet. You know, there were no bars or anything in those days. But they used to do tea and coffee and sandwiches, and my mother used to be in the buffet. So from the time I was about 14, I could go because my mother was there, you know. I was there every week,
Oh, I bet you had a whale of a time.
Oh, I did, yeah.
And of course there was the club then underneath the church.
Yeah.
CMS Club, was it called?
It was, and then it just became St Joseph's Social.
Yeah. I used to go there when Jeff and I were courting every Saturday.
I used to run do all the advertising and do all the expenses and what have you, and what we take, and try and beat it every week, you know, to keep it going. But then, as I say, I was a youngster when the club opened, so all my age were brought up in the club, but no youngsters wanted to know then. But I could go and I could sit anywhere with anybody, and that's the type it was, you know. But Of course, it closed. It'd be lovely for me now if it was open. From Abertystwyth Street, which is the next street up from Lion Street, which is that one, there were 3 pubs on between Abertystwyth and Lion Street. And then from the bottom of Convent Street down to the lights, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pubs.
Yeah.
So, but now there's nothing.
No,
Nothing at all.
I think the nearest one is Cumbola, isn't it? The Three Sisters.
Yeah, that's the nearest
Three Sisters. Yeah, yeah. The park now, it's lovely. You know, we fundraised and we got grants and everything because it had gone to the dogs, hadn't it?
Terrible. Yeah.
There were drugs and everything going on in there, you know. So we all got together with Communities First to sort of see what we could do. And so we got the park up and running. It opened on my grandson's 5th birthday. He's now 17. He'll be 18 in March. And he went around telling everybody, my nana gave me a park for my birthday, because he knew I was helping to do the fundraising and that. After school, you get people from St Joseph's School and Waun Wen School playing there. The schools actually use the park. A couple of times a week, each school, they go up and they do things in the park, or they just let the kids play.
On a Friday, all the Indian people come. They bring all their food, they sit on the picnic tables, and the children, most of them are dressed up, you know, and then they dance and they have their music, and it's lovely to watch them. And then on a Sunday, they look like Africans, I'm not sure where they come from, but they have a religious service over there.
Church.
And then they stay and they have their food, and they stay then all the afternoon. All the children are playing over there, you know.
Every summer, I'd order 3 coaches, and I'd have trips going. We'd all meet outside St Joseph's School. Word by word of mouth. Cath's doing the trip. Cath's doing the trip. You know, such and such a day. Come, and I'd be there, you know, and I'd be thinking, oh, I hope I can fill these buses, because gosh, I'm going to have to pay for them whether I fill them or not. But every year the buses would be full, and in those days they didn't have seat belts in the coaches. We'd have 3 or 4 kids sitting in 1 2-seater, and we'd have 4 bus loads. I don't know where the people came from, you know. I think they must have come from all over Swansea. I couldn't afford much myself. You know, I had 3 little ones. My husband at the time was self-employed, and times were tough. But people knew those trips were coming, and they'd scrimp and save for the bus fare, like, you know.
I know when they had a firework display up in Porthcawl every September, and we always went. And I know, I'm talking about now, late 40s, I suppose, and £0.50 we used to pay to go. When you think of it, there was so much going on around here years ago, and now there's nothing, you know. Yeah, it's a pity.
And what did you say they've done to the hut at the bottom? You know, in the bottom of the park, the tin.
Oh, that's the new community centre.
It's a community centre?
Yeah, well, St Joseph's Community Centre, that is. Yeah.
How long have that been up and running?
Well, really, only a few months, because they worked on it for a long time. And when it was all complete, and I haven't been in there, but they say it's beautiful, and kids got in there and smashed it all up before it was ever used. So they did it all again, and I suppose since the summer, that's all it's been open.
Yeah, because it's the first I've heard about that now, as you say, and it's a community.
Oh, it'd been on the, it was, the bishop bought it, back, must be about 5 or 6 years ago. But of course they couldn't do anything until they had it all cleaned out and all redone and everything.
So what do you think
So-
you're going to do? You know,
Well,
have
it's-
coffee mornings and things like that?
Yes, and they also let it out
Do
to
they
people.
really?
Yeah, they let it out for to different people, you know, parties or groups or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is news to me. And I mean, that's only the other side of the park.
Yeah. But I think it was wrong. I think they'd have been better off doing the club up. Because the steps are like that to go into that hut down there. So, you know, older people can't make it. My brother was 7 years older than me, and he used to play rugby and cricket around the roads, but he was never one for playing around the roads, you know, not like me. But my cousin then, mother was my mother's sister. She died when he was 10, so he lived with us then until he left school at 14. And he when the raids were on, we used to have an hour and a half for lunch from school in those days. He'd have me all up Town Hill, running round in craters looking for shrapnel. We'd come back and we'd be rotten. My mother'd go to kill us all.
You hear a lot about these pop-up cafes. I was thinking in the summer it would be nice if from the community centre you could have a facility where, you know, the mothers that go to the park can have a cup of tea, buy a cup of tea and a cake, and the kids can have it, buy a drink. I think it's achievable, but I think, you know, we've got to look into the legalities of it all.
Yeah,
you know,
and would the council allow it?
Where would the money come from? Would there be grants to be had? You know, how would you stock it up? You know, initially, where would the money come to stock the cafe?
It would be good, but whether the council would allow it, that's another thing. Isn't it?
Yeah.
But when I was running the parties, as I said, you know, the royal anniversaries and that, and the parties we used to have in those days, and a councillor would always come and see that everything was going all right, you know.
Oh, we always used to have a councillor there, but they were always involved. By the time we were doing our stuff, they were always involved in helping us, pointing us in the right direction to get grants and getting someone in to help us plan the park and all that.
Oh, the biggest change is when they knocked all the old houses down and built the flats, and it took the what can I say? It took all the friendship and social life away from the area when they put on the flats. Then they put down in Griffith John, down Langwellick Street, and it's strange because all the people, you know, it all be one sort of thing, you know, have street parties and in the summer nights because you couldn't go to bed early in the war, and they'd have somebody bring a wireless out and they'd dance in the street, and it used to be lovely. And when they all moved, when they were building Penlan it was, and once they moved up there, no one bothered with each other. Perhaps your neighbour from next door down there was next door to you in Penlan, but never bothered with one another, like if all the spirit had gone out of the people, you know.
An ancestor of mine, probably great-great-great-grandfather, used to have the barge.
Oh, it wasn't a barge, it was a rowing boat.
Or a rowing boat, whatever it was.
I'd forgotten about that.
And he'd take him from one side to the other.
From the bottom of Malaphant Street, I don't know whether you know Malaphant Street, from the bottom of Malaphant Street over to Foxhall.
Yeah.
And it would sort of be going against the tide, like, you know, and the boat would be like this. And I can always remember, I was so frightened in it, and I said to my gran, oh, can we get out and walk? And we were in the middle of the river.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, not a barge, indeed. It was only
well, I was told it was a barge.
No.
I've come down a peg or two. My family's come down a peg or two.
I tell you where you'll see a photograph of that. It's over in Morrison's. But I remember that boat.
How much they used to charge you?
Oh, it was about threepence, I think it was, something like that. Yeah.